On March 1st, Oakland Socialist was privileged to interview Ivan Shmatko, who lives in Western Ukraine. Tell us a little bit about yourself so that people who are listening can know where you're coming from.
Well, I was born in Ukraine. I'm a citizen of Ukraine. My views are left, probably anarchist.
How do you see the general mood, what people are thinking and saying and doing where you're located?
Strong feelings, first of all, of solidarity. If you go to a train station, we today helped parents of our friends to get relocated from the train station, for example. You see a lot of volunteers, right, coming to the station in the city we are staying, and saying anybody needs housing, anybody needs food. There is a lot of rage, I would say, for what happened, for rage for invaders. And if you go right now and say, hey, I want to donate a blood, you won't be able to, because there is so much blood and so many volunteers donating blood that they don't have any storage capacity to store that blood, right? As the same goes to the territorial defense that I mentioned, local defense forces. My friend in Kyiv was trying to get into that force to volunteer, and he was sent away twice, like one day and then the second day, yesterday, because once again, there are so many volunteers that want to defend Kyiv, for example, in this case, that it's impossible to get there. And I heard stories already of people trying to bribe military officers for them to be taken, right, to these forces. I have never seen people that united.
The divisions between Russian-speaking and Ukrainian-speaking people, and also divisions...
That's bullshit. Sorry, I interrupted. First of all, most of the people who suffer right now under the bombs and rockets of the Russian Federation are Russian-speaking. Kharkiv, the second biggest city that is now attacked, is mostly Russian-speaking city. For example, the attack is going on from the south, which is mostly Russian-speaking, near Kherson, and from the east, from Donetsk and Lugansk side, this is also Russian-speaking region. Most of the people who are under the bombs right now are Russian-speaking. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if you watch, there are plenty of evidence right now and videos of ordinary civilians, for example, trying to stop, right, Russian tanks and Russian other armored cars. They speak in Russian. In Ukraine, as in any society, there are many opinions and divisions, right, on various matters. Many people would say, this is for us, people who live in Ukraine, to decide this kind of matters. The problem is that someone from outside, sitting in Moscow, decided for us that Ukrainian society is gonna be this and that way. And the whole war is about this. Someone from outside deciding, hey, debate in Ukraine is not important at all. I will decide what kind of Ukraine will be built on this, I guess, ruins. It's the issue here. So there were divisions about language, sure, but those divisions are have been overemphasized in Western press. It doesn't work, like, it's not such a crucial division. Almost every person in Ukraine is bilingual. But once again, coming back to the beginning, those are Russian-speaking people who are stopping right now Russian tanks with their bare arms. If you watch all these videos, because Russian army is fighting mostly in Russian-speaking regions. It's certainly an issue that Russian propaganda uses, but it's not a division that is crucial. Putin is not saving Russian-speaking people, because it's not the, I don't know, First World War, right? It's not the same thing going on. There is one country, one big, incredibly militarized country that people would used to say second most powerful military country. Probably it's not the case anymore. But attacking a smaller country, there is no point in fraternizing. There is obviously Russian troops must leave Ukraine. Right now, it's not an issue of two imperial powers fighting. But in this case, it's one empire attacking a smaller country. Many Russian troops are demoralized. Many Russian soldiers say that they don't want to fight here, that they didn't know where they were going. And Ukrainian soldiers are fighting for some people fight for their land, some people fight for the freedom to decide, to have that kind of debate inside, right? Because obviously, if Russia, I don't know, for example, installs a puppet government in Kiev, there will be no debate. It will be like a Chechnya, right? With Kadyrov doing what he wants, and everybody who doesn't like that will find themselves in the basement tortured. Or Transnistria, for example, right? In Moldova, where there is no real political debate. You don't decide.
Amongst civilians, amongst the wider Ukrainian population, to speak to and possible reach out to the rank and file soldiers, if there's a coordinated effort along those lines?
There is no coordinated effort in terms of, I don't know, central government coordinating this effort, but there is obviously a very, should I call grassroots? I'm not sure what words to use. There is a sentiment. People don't want Russian troops here, so people decide to go to those squares, for example, where the Russian soldiers are, or try to stop them on the roads and chastise them and ask them what they are doing, or make them know that they don't want Russian soldiers, for example, to save them.
We asked Ivan his thoughts about the anti-war protests in Russia. For one thing, he said he knows some Russian students in Canada who used to be pro-Russian government, but now are not any longer. He then continued.
We are in this together, let's put it this way. Because, and I got it a lot from my Russian friends, that if Russia wins this war, probably Russian society will get even more authoritarian. Now there are laws in Russia that are under review or already passed that impose essentially war censure. Russia requires media not to call it war, for example. And if you do, your media will be blocked. This kind of things, right? It's a special operation. They call it special operation. And they require media to use only official Russian sources that don't even tell how many Russian soldiers were killed. And I think only yesterday they just admitted that there were Russian soldiers that were killed. If Russia wins this war, will be even more authoritarian. It's not a war of Ukrainians against Russians. So
we asked his assessment of how the war was going militarily. After explaining that he's not a military expert, he commented.
It obviously doesn't go well for Russia, but at the same time, we have to be realistic. Russia has a lot of men and a lot of military power, right? Especially in the air. It's very hard for Ukraine to fight for the skies. And Russia still has a lot of possibilities to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. We cannot be sure about that. But so far, it goes on as well as it can be for Ukraine.
What is the view in Ukraine of socialists?
It was apparent during Maidan protests and then DNR, LNR in Crimea. Many leftists, unfortunately, were fooled by Russian propaganda into believing that Russia somehow is an anti-fascist state and somehow Ukraine is a fascist state or controlled by fascists. Once again, it's complex. I didn't count, but let's say about 40% of my friends now volunteer to fight. leftists, right? There is an anarchist battalion fighting. There are many socialists fighting on the Ukrainian side. There is a sentiment in many post-Soviet societies against socialism and leftism because people associate, unfortunately, those views with many bad things that happened in Soviet Union. Many Western leftists, they have to understand this specific reality of post-Soviet societies and post-socialist societies, that they have reservations against some past events, right, that they think are somehow connected to all the left views. So yes, it exists in Ukrainian society for sure. But at the same time, you are not repressed if you're a lefty. It's not like government or police will capture you and persecute you.
We discussed Putin's connection with the far right all around the world.
But let's say, before this war, the biggest supporters of Putin in Europe were far-right parties and far-right groups.
That's the same here. In fact, just this last weekend, there was a conference called America First Conference, which was run by an overt, open racist. And in that conference, they were chanting, Putin, Putin, Putin.
That's crazy for me. But the craziest part is that many leftists somehow also joined those far right to support Putin, at least before this invasion.
Ivan commented on the question of NATO and Russian security concerns.
Or if you look at polls, before 2014, when there was the invasion began, right, Crimea and then Donbass, support for NATO membership in Ukraine has always been around 50-50, 54-50 against. It has always been like that. After 2014, when Russia invaded, somehow, for some reason, unknown reasons, I'm ironic, support for NATO membership jumped to, I don't remember exactly, but let's say 70%, and stayed at that level, more or less. And now, I think there is still no poll. Obviously, it's hard to have a poll right now, but I'm sure that now it will be 99.9%. The result is opposite. Putin is creating the issue, then he then uses to make an excuse for the invasion. You don't have to choose what kind of atrocities to support. You just don't need to support atrocities.
Right.
You don't have to choose the side between authoritarian regimes and I don't know, atrocities that US and I don't know, shit that US does, right? It's not like you have to choose. You can say both. Like many leftists, unfortunately, for some reason, they support terrible authoritarian regimes just because those regimes oppose the US.
The reason for that is, in essence, they don't see any independent role for the working class. And
Yes,
so the only force that exists in the world are the different imperialist powers. And the working class is just like pawns, a passive bystander in their view. And therefore they have to choose between one imperialist power and another. I think that's what, and in fact, that was actually what Stalin, that was his view, that
yes,
the working class and the underdeveloped world are just pawns in the greater game.
You have to get rid of geopolitical poison. When you start thinking about all of this stuff in geopolitical terms, you stop thinking about concrete contexts. For example, what's happening concretely in Ukraine. You stop thinking about what it means. It means that concrete people, that their legs are torn apart by bombs, like a woman yesterday in Kharkiv, right? That woman was not a NATO soldier. That woman was not a politician. She probably, from the looks of her, she probably was not a political activist of any kind. She was just a woman who was walking on the street. You stop thinking about concrete people who will suffer, who will die because they will not get their medicine or they will not get into the hospital, right? Start thinking about real people, because if Putin has security concerns, it doesn't mean that I or my parents should hide in a bombshell afraid that one of the bombs will hit our house. Because why would we? It's not reasonable.
In Russia, at least 1,400 people were arrested in protests that took place in 51 Russian cities. NATO now